Welcome to the Real Authority, and it seems like spring came early. I don't know when spring exactly starts, but I know that daylight savings time happened recently. And even though I haven't been outside, it's been a pain in the butt in here. It has been hot. I might as well complain about that a bit because it was kind of just unexpected. I thought we had more cold weather coming instead of, this. Nothing to do with the movie review because I survived this in the midst of a in the midst of a heat wave. So today I'm talking about Slanted, which just so happened to be the AMC screen unseen yesterday, and I was absolutely looking forward to it, despite Bleecker Street, or the distributor of the movie, basically only releasing one trailer, which is quite absurd. I mean, as of right now, it looks like it's only going to be in limited release, which is kind of a shame, but here am I to encourage a wider expansion of that release. So yeah, the plot, the best way I could phrase it, is this Chinese teenager, played by Shirley Chen, finds herself being either ignored or bullied based on her ethnicity. She's been aspiring for a long time to hopefully be crowned prom queen once she graduates high school. However, because of her ethnicity, doubts basically cloud her mind. And then she finds out that there's this place which basically specializes in surgically turning people white. I know it sounds horrible, the plot. Anyway, then she basically becomes white, and she's played by McKenna Grace. And it's basically going in the direction of the substance, except less severe. I'll get to that in a little bit, but be careful what you wish for. Again, best way I could describe it. I'll try to explain it more as the review goes along. Speaking of the substance, though, that was kind of my expectation going into it. It would probably be the substance for Gen Z. And you know what, to an extent, I'm right, but I mean, the substance was such a special movie that I'm surprised that it took this long to actually make a clone. Actually, scratch the word clone. It's inspired by the substance, but it's clearly going its own direction. And actually, it premiered at South by Southwest last year, so I shouldn't say it took this long to actually get it made. I should say it took this long to actually come out. And seriously, only one trailer? This movie genuinely looked so interesting. The substance thrived on its marketing, especially with the eerie score that's in the background, as well as the lack of information that was given. And they started that campaign months before the substance ultimately dropped to, it developed its status, but I have the privilege of saying I was there from the very opening weekend, and I love it. So, of course, I was interested in this movie, plus I think I've become a fan of McKenna Grace's work. She's such a talented actress that ultimately I'm excited to see whatever she's in. But more or less, the premise, as well as the commentary that they seem to be going for, ultimately intrigued me. This is a premise that, in the wrong hands, would have probably fallen so flat, but the movie is very self-aware about this concept, as well as the negative implications that come with it. I guess starting off with the directing and screenplay from Amy Wong, exceptional. I am happy that this movie really doesn't take anything for granted. It gets ridiculous in a lot of places, but said ridiculousness is both oddly well-timed and also influenced by the substance, but it's not as wacky as the substance. While the substance was kind of contained in its own bubble, this movie has a bigger bubble than what the substance had, for lack of a better word. And it allows for the messaging to really shine through, which is something that I kind of was expecting, but I didn't expect it to hit this hard. Because it covers prejudice, both consciously and unconsciously, as well as criticizes the American dream, and how people of color or of different ethnicities basically find themselves in a awkward situation where they may not get that. And it's so sad to see the plot develop in the way that it does. But yeah, Wong does a tremendous job at portraying this situation with the amount of gravitas that you would want, while also having a bit of fun with itself, but never at the cost of the messaging. And I really did resonate with it, because even though I am not in that situation, I could clearly empathize with those people, because clearly nobody should be treating people differently just because of their skin color or their different ethnicities. It's just ridiculous. Don't stand for racism, stand for equality, absolutely. So yeah, Amy Wong, you absolutely deserve all the respect in the world for how you handled this movie. Plus, the acting's also pretty tremendous, starting off with Shirley Chen as Dawn, or at least the original part of her. I felt she was tremendous at selling her character to a devastating degree. Because even though she shares the screen time and maybe gets overshadowed a bit by McKenna Grace in fame-wise, by no means am I going to mention Grace first, because Chen deserves a lot of credit for how she portrayed her character, as well as just the heartbreaking nature of the situation. And it's all because of how she looks, and it's just so heartbreaking because it's her goal is to not be treated this way, but also become prom queen, which shouldn't be this hard for people to become noticed, but it comes to that point where she's easily manipulated into changing her skin color. Hopefully that wasn't an inch of a spoiler, but Seriously, it's just so awful. And Chen channels that emotion pretty effectively, and you obviously do not want to see her go this direction. And someone wanting to turn white because of the fact that their ethnicity is different than others, like, it shouldn't be a thing, but I can clearly see a lot of people wanting to do that. But obviously, it pretty much wouldn't happen in this world. But you understand why those people would want to do the surgery that is basically the main catalyst of this entire movie. And I do feel like Shirley Chen sells those emotions pretty well, but also she actually has a lot of great comedic timing because this movie is darkly comedic in places, and I do feel like she does it pretty well. So yeah, she deserves as much credit as McKenna Grace is probably going to get for this role, which I guess I'll get to her now. Chen and Grace really do all they can to make this character work, and in fact, the transition from Chen to Grace, it was kind of good. By that I mean the character really does stay the same in that initial phase before it kind of goes like the substance, where it's like she kind of feels like a different person, although with the substance I pretty much think that they are two different personalities, as in one personality basically extracted from the main individual. I don't know, leave your substance theories in the comments, maybe wait to do Slanted to avoid spoilers. But the character really does try to blend in with her peers with this new face. But Grace does a great job at not only portraying the character in this light, but also how John is basically becoming a different, much more meaner person as a result. And the entire time, I wasn't exactly like, yeah, that's absolutely a cool thing to do. No, I was just like biting my tongue. It was just so uncomfortable because you know that it may reap temporary benefits, short-term gain, but long-term pain, because obviously she erased her identity, and in those moments of emotional intensity, Grace does a great job of that as well. Complemented by exceptional cinematography from Ed Wu. Like, there are a lot of moments which really just look beautiful, plus the movie does something interesting in which, when it's Shirley Chen before the transplant, it like has a shortened aspect ratio, but when McKenna Grace goes into frame, it basically expands the ratio, showing how her life is basically bordered by the color of her skin, and it's really just heartbreaking and just very sad. So the technical aspects really go hand in hand with the screenplay and directing to really sell the point home. It's not exactly the most realistic thing because, of course, the surgery doesn't exist in real life, and I pray to God that it doesn't anytime soon. But the realistic aspects of the story are still so evident and so present on screen that you just can't help but just either feel bad or relate. Other than that, the pacing's really strong. In fact, it might have a better pacing than the substance, because even though the substance is mostly just energetic, I feel like with the last act, it does kind of slow down a bit. Here, none of those issues really come into play, and also makeup's good. Not spoiling anything, but trailer showed this, so yeah, makeup's good. And I guess not to sound like a broken record, but I really do feel the messaging just really resonated, and I feel it's my duty to absolutely say, love yourself. The color of your skin and your ethnicity shouldn't determine who talks to you and how you're received by everybody. To the extent where if this surgery existed in real life, nobody should feel pressured to, basically change their look just to fit in. You're perfect just the way you are, and do not let anybody tell you different. And I know that they may not stop, but try not to let it emotionally affect you negatively, because it can lead to very life-changing decisions like John encounters in this movie. I guess nothing more to say without getting into spoilers. Point is, Slanted is definitely a great movie, one that really does use the substance formula and template to tell a very emotional and devastating story of changing one's identity and thus removing it, as well as how prejudicial circumstances can lead to these decisions being made. Maybe it's not as good as the substance, but that's not the point. The point is in its messaging, which I don't even think my words can do it justice, so if you're able to, definitely check out Slanted. It is not deserving of a limited release. It needs a wide release. Don't think of it as a substance clone or substance ripoff. It is definitely more than that, and I can only respect what they did. One of the best movies of the year so far, and I don't say that lightly. The Real Authority approves. 10 out of 10. This will definitely be one that sparks conversations in the same vein as the substance, and you know what? That's only healthy. Stand up to racism. Don't let it overtake you. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and comment your thoughts on this movie, and let me know how well you resonated with this movie as well as the substance, I guess. I mean, the commentary here may actually connect with you more than the substance in a lot of ways, so definitely let me know what you thought about it. Alright, peace.